Hi everyone, I'm Setayesh, and today we're talking about naturalism, probably the most intense and gritty literary movement you'll ever come across. Let me set the scene for you. It's the late 19th century. Science is skyrocketing. Darwin's theory of evolution has shaken the world. People are starting to think that maybe humans aren't as special as they thought, that we're just animals shaped by our environment and biology, nature and nurture. So, what is naturalism exactly? Think of it as realism's tougher and more pessimistic cousin. Realism tried to show life as it really was, middle class life, ordinary people, everyday problems. Naturalism does that too, but adds a layer of determinism. Now, determinism is the belief that you don't really have free will. Instead, your life is controlled by three things: heredity, environment, and circumstances. Your genes, your surroundings, and random chance governs your life, and that's it. You have nothing to do with it. It's not your call. Naturalist writers looked at the slums, the factories, the farms hit by drought. They showed characters trapped by poverty, addiction, like violence or desire, and those characters almost never win. This is one of the realities they wanted to hit the audience with, that the poor never win because they are poor, because they are destined to be poor and defeated and losers, actually. And this is their destiny and they can't change it, so that makes it hopeless. Here's a quick comparison between the two movements. In a realist story, a factory worker might struggle financially, but eventually make a small but meaningful choice that changes his or her life. But in a naturalist story, that same worker gets sick, loses their job, makes one desperate decision, and gets crushed by forces way bigger than them. So there is no happy endings, no heroic sacrifices, just cause and effect. The famous naturalist writer Émile Zola described it like this. He said, literature should be a scientific experiment. Put a character in a certain environment, then watch what happens. Just like a chemist mixing chemicals, and like a chemist who mixes chemicals and then waits and observes and sees what happens. Now, let's talk about the key features you'll see in naturalist literature. Number one is the setting. Naturalist stories often take place in harsh environments like urban slums, frozen wilderness, battlefields, or rough seas. The setting is an active force which pushes the characters around, especially in American literature. Nature has a really major role in American naturalist literature. Number two is the characters. They are not glamorous heroes, they are poor, uneducated, or marginalized people like prostitutes and drifters and miners and soldiers and farmers. These kind of people, Zola called them the people, the ones that society tries to ignore, but they make the most of the society. and they are ignored nonetheless. Um, Number three is the plot. Naturalist plots follow a very predictable pattern. The character wants something like food or love or money or, wanting to survive. Something blocks them, such as, poverty, addiction, or social rules. Then they try to fight back and they lose and usually die at the end, but not always. And this losing is usually in a way that feels brutal and unfair. And that's it. End of story. Hitting the audience hard and brutal, just as the stories. Um, Key feature number four is the tone. Naturalism feels cold and detached. The narrator doesn't cry over the character's suffering. Instead, they describe it like a scientist describing a lab rat in a maze. That detachment makes the suffering feel even more hopeless, and it actually makes the experience of the reader as someone who is outside the loop a real and painful one. As a reader, you might not even be able to finish a work because it is so painful to read. Number five, taboo subjects. Naturalist writers loved to write about things about, polite society, actually things that polite society didn't like to discuss, such as sexual desire, violence, bodily functions, mental illness, and alcoholism. They wanted to shock readers into seeing reality, mainly the ugly reality. Because, this is the difference. Realism showed the audience everything, like a videotape, like recording something, a place, a landscape, or an event. But naturalism focuses only on the ugly things, only on the painful, on the hard, things that are hard to watch, things that are cruel and brutal, and that kind of stuff. And the endings. Naturalist endings are rarely happy. I personally don't know a naturalist work that ends happily, so this rarely is like an almost unhappy. Mm, Sometimes the character dies, sometimes they go mad, sometimes they just keep suffering and trapped in the same cycle. The point is this: the universe doesn't care about you, your hopes, and your misery. So you just have to cope, or you can die. I mean, that's the only other option. You can cope with the hardship, or you can die. Now, let's talk about some authors and their works. The father of naturalism is Émile Zola from France, the picture on the right. His masterpiece is a 20-book series, 20 fucking books, called L'Arrogant Macabre. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correct. Excuse my French. It follows two branches of one family through the Second French Empire. Each book focuses on a different character and a different social problem, like alcoholism, mining disasters, prostitution, war, and so on. 20 books cover 20 social problems. Each book, one social problem. The most famous book in this 20 book series is Germinal. It's about a coal miners' strike in northern France. The conditions are brutal, the miners live like animals or even worse. So they go on a strike, and surprise, it fails. People die, and at the end, the main character walks away in the darkness, not sure if anything will ever change. That's pretty hopeless. That's pretty hopeless. Well, in America, naturalism took off a little later. The big names are Stephen Crane, Frank Norris, Theodore Dreiser, and Jack London. Stephen Crane, the picture on the right, wrote Maggie, a girl of the streets. It's about a young woman in the New York City slums who tries to escape poverty and abuse. Well, spoiler alert, she doesn't escape any of them. Crane also wrote The Red Badge of Courage, which shows a young soldier in the Civil War acting like more like a scared, frightened animal running from danger instead of, doing heroic stuff, doing, the fighting in the battlefield instead of running. And Frank Norris, the picture on the left, wrote McTeague. It's about a dentist in San Francisco whose life falls apart because of greed, jealousy, and violence. There's a famous scene where the main character kills his wife in a valley in Death Valley, yes, then dies himself, and he is handcuffed to his wife's dead body. So there is no redemption, no justice, just a bad and sad ending. Theodore Dreiser on the right wrote Sister Carrie. This one is interesting because the so-called, bad character, who is a woman who leaves her husband and lives with another man, actually succeeds. Yes. But the good character, her first husband, ends up homeless and eventually kills himself. Dreiser was, trying to say that morality doesn't matter, and the more you act immoral, the more you are likely to succeed. So, act immoral. That's the lesson. And Jack London on the left is probably the most famous American naturalist for modern readers. He wrote The Call of the Wild and White Fang. Those are often sold as children's books, but they are pure naturalism. They show animals and humans driven by instinct, environment, and the will to survive, which is instinct, basically. He also wrote a short story called To Build a Fire, where a man in the Yukon wilderness slowly freezes to death because vanity blinds him and he ignores nature's rules. You feel every cold second reading this story, and it's a good start for reading American naturalism. I personally recommend it. I myself started actually naturalism with this short story, so you can do that, or you can start with something else. I will tell you later. Now I want to answer the question, why does naturalism matter today? There are two reasons. The first one is that naturalism changed how writers treat characters. Before naturalism, poor or marginal characters were usually comic relief or background decoration. But naturalism put these characters front and center and said that their suffering is worth serious attention. They are worthy of being the protagonist of a whole story. And the second reason is that naturalism pushed the limits of what literature could show. After naturalism, writers felt a kind of freedom, the freedom to write about sex, about violence, about social rot, write about all of this without euphemisms. Uh, so you can thank naturalism for a lot of modern gritty fiction and films that we have today. There are two common misconceptions about this movement. Number one is naturalism is depressing for no reason. Not really. Naturalist writers believed they were telling the truth. So telling the truth is the reason. They thought most literature was a lie, a pretty lie that made life seem fair and meaningful, whereas it wasn't. So they wanted to show the ugly truth because they believed only the truth could lead to real change. But yes, the focus was mainly on the ugly truth. So it might sound a bit depressing, but it's not depressing for no reason. There is a reason. There is a solid reason here. And number two, naturalism and realism are the same thing. Well, about that, I must say that they are related, yes, but not identical. Realism describes, but naturalism explains why. So realism shows a dirty street. It's just a dirty street, with all the details of this dirty street. But naturalism shows why the people on this dirty street never had a chance to succeed. Okay, so you see, it's a bit deeper, it's a bit grimmer, and more pessimistic than realism. So, here, where can you start reading if you want to explore naturalism? You can start with Jack London's To Build a Fire. I already told you. Or Stephen Crane's The Open Boat. The Open Boat is based on Crane's own experience surviving a shipwreck. Four men in a tiny lifeboat facing the ocean, realizing the universe does not care if they live or die. And well, for the novel, if you want to start with a novel, try McTeague by Frank Norris, I'm sorry, or Germinal by Zola. Both are long novels, but they are gripping. So they And for a modern take on naturalist ideas, you can watch the movie The Florida Project. It's about a poor mother and daughter living in a budget motel near Disney World. The setting is bright and colorful. It's Disney World, so it makes sense to be bright and colorful. But there are forces trapping these mother and daughter, like their poverty and bad life decisions. Um, I personally recommend starting with the short stories To Build a Fire and The Open Boat because they are short stories and they demonstrate naturalism so purely. Okay, and if you are someone who likes to read long works, you can then go to novels, or if you are a film guy, you can go to watch movies like the Florida Project, and then proceed to start the novels because novels are long, and nowadays people maybe don't like to read 30-page novels, but that's your taste, that's your call. I'm just here to suggest. So let's do a quick wrap up. Naturalism says humans are controlled by heredity, environment, and mere chance. The tone is cold, gritty, and unsentimental, uh, and it is unsentimental literature. The key writers are Zola, Crane, Norris, Dreiser, and London. Key features are harsh settings, trapped characters, taboo subjects, and unhappy endings. If you want to, understand the darker side of the 19th century, naturalism is where you go to. That's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned for more videos of this series. I'll tackle the literary movement of symbolism next time. Make sure to check out the channel on Wednesdays for new videos. And take care and goodbye.